It's been a busy night of football talk. You are now listening to the Highbury Squad. This is the Lockdown Series, Volume 2, Episode 15. It's that time of the week, otherwise known as Hump Day, but as we know it, it's Kevin Says. Let's go, as Coombs AFC says. Come on! Welcome back to the show, everyone. Welcome to the show. There is only one way to do this.
Oh!
Super Kevin Campbell in the house. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. Just had a little warm-up on the same old.
On the same old.
On the same old. We just had a warm-up, and now we're ready to go.
You'll find this funny, Casey. I'm not sure if everyone was listening to the show that we were just on. But where is it? I have to from Moss. No, Kenny Ken in this stream, right? You'll have to listen to the same old Arsenal to know what Moss is talking about, but It was very interesting. Hello to the Blind Gooner. Hello to one of our favorites, Taib. Welcome. Yeah. Jelly donut, love that. I fancy a jelly donut right now, although Casey would advise me against eating that.
No, I wouldn't, to be honest, because I know you work very hard. You haven't been well, so a little bit of comfort for yourself.
Thank you. And Sylvester, well, waiting for my Highbury Squad, stumbled to another channel to see Sophie and Casey. Welcome back and good evening all. Okay, listen, there's no other way to do this. Let's just get stuck in, everyone, right? It's Kevin Says, you know how this goes. We play the videos. Casey's got 2 questions for you, but this week he added a bonus question, which we're going to save to the end because it's an important one that follows on from our Arsenal legend, icon, legacy show. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to this week's Kevin Says.
Hi, everyone. This is Kev Says 15, and this is recorded after the Southampton win. So I have 2 questions and a bonus question. Okay. Right. Let's get straight into it. Question number 1 is, what's your thoughts on Mikel Arteta now? Because after the FA Cup loss to Southampton at the weekend, obviously there was an imbalance in the fan base. There was certain fans kicking off, etc., etc. And now that the team have gone to Southampton again and beat them pretty convincingly 3-1, good performance. Even without Aubameyang, obviously got personal issues. Kieran Tierney didn't play because he's got a little niggle in his calf muscle or whatever. What's your thoughts now? And what's your thoughts on the balance of what he's looking to do? Obviously, he's looking to bring different pieces in, Odegaard as well, etc. So what's your thoughts on that? So that's question 1.
Right, make a note, everyone. That's question 1. Here we go with number 2.
Okay. Question 2 is a really important one. How do we as a football club right now secure the likes of Saka, Smith-Rowe and Martinelli? These boys are proving to be a big difference for our football team. They're proving to be a lifeline over and above what our experienced players can do. So how do we secure them? What would you suggest? And obviously, do you want the club to move now? Or would you give it a little bit of time, etc.? So I'd like your thoughts on that. I look forward to speaking to you in the show.
Okay, that's question number 2. Hope you guys are making notes right here. And here's the bonus question for today. It's an interesting one.
And here's the bonus. The bonus question is, Mesut Ozil has just joined Fenerbahce, the club he supported as a boy. And I've been pretty vocal on, I don't think Mesut Ozil's an Arsenal great. I think he's been a great player, but I don't think he's an Arsenal great. I think he's a quality player a good, really good player, talented player, but I don't think he's an Arsenal great. What's your thoughts on Mesut Ozil's legacy at Arsenal? And that is, Kev says, 15. Remember, I'll go over the questions one more time. What's your thoughts on Mikel Arteta now, after obviously losing in the FA Cup and winning at Southampton in the league? Number 2 is, how do we secure our talented young players, your Sakas, your Smith Rowe and Martinellis? How do we secure them and keep them protected moving forward and protecting the club as well? How do we do that? And the bonus question is, what is Mesut Ozil's legacy at Arsenal? Thank you very much, and I look forward to engaging you in the show. Take good care now. Bye.
Okay, superb. Well done, Casey. Some really good stuff there. We've seen the interesting question for me. The most interesting is kind of how a lot of Arsenal fans lost their mind after the FA Cup, and everyone questioned, why aren't we going for it? But one of the things I've been wanting to ask you is there a little bit of value in terms of what I wanted and suggested earlier this season, in that if you're going to sacrifice something this year, is it going to be the FA Cup to try and be more competitive or climb up the Premier League and go all out in Europa League? Is there any value in that before I get to some listener questions here for you?
Well, I think maybe what we got to look at, Sophie, I think, is seeing what the manager, now I think the manager showed his hand a little bit of what maybe the priority is. You know, playing, whether it's injuries or niggles. Obviously, there was 5 players really who had niggles or knocks or whatever, or couldn't play. But to change 7 of the team, 7 players, tells you that 1, is going to give them game time, but 2, that he's going to give the first 11 more time to get ready for the Tuesday game. I think that's really important. And let's have it right, Sophie. I truly believe Mikel Arteta is hoping that the team keep doing well so we can move up that league, and he wants to be able to challenge for the top 4. He does.
Okay, so let's get stuck in. Thanks everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. Some good questions coming in already. So here's one from Feridun Atay. Sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. I think I got it right, maybe. They say, I'm not 100% convinced about Arteta yet. At the end of the season, we could judge his performance. It's a really good point in the sense that, Casey, do we judge his performance at the end of this season, or do we judge him at the end of the next, maybe in December after the summer transfer window? Your thoughts on what Feridun is asking?
Yeah, look, and I know there's many people who feel the same as Feridun, to be fair. A lot of people ain't 100%. I'm sure you're not 100% convinced yourself.
No, not yet. Not me, no. Yeah.
And you're right. You don't need to be convinced. Am I fully convinced? No, I'm not fully convinced. But like I've always said, Sophie, he needs time to be able to build the foundation, to get the wrong people out of the dressing room, which he's nearly done that now, and to start to build the team in his image, the way he wants to play. I think that's so important, and he's getting there. Obviously, getting to the end of this season, he doesn't, obviously, he's never really fully been backed, but it's going to take a bit of time. It's going to take, maybe he's had last summer and he needs summer coming, and then we could say, okay, now it's his squad. So I get that, but I still think come the end of the season, like you put the question to me on Saturday, you said, okay, if he finishes 10th in the league, does he keep his job?
Doesn't win anything.
And he doesn't win anything. Does he keep his job? And I said, yes, because if you're halfway building the house and then you get rid of the builder, the new builder still has to finish building the house. Yeah. So let him build the house. And if it doesn't work, then you could say, listen, we've given you enough time. It hasn't worked out. But then any manager who's coming in would have the pieces, you'd like to think they've got the pieces at the football club.
Yeah. A little bit like Chelsea. Lampard was building a house, got them into the Champions League, got them to the FA Cup final. He didn't win it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were top of the league at some point this season. Everyone said they were maybe title contenders. They have 5 bad run of games and he's out and Thomas Tuchel's in now and he's got to keep building on that house. So I understand your point. A comment here from Nana Badu. Arsenal should build a team around youth. I think you're in agreement with that. And then Gunn DeKogan here says, Arteta's the Don. I feel good to have been loyal to what he's working towards. We can all see his vision now coming to life. And that vision goes a little bit to your second question and what Nana's saying here about building around youth, Casey. Are we seeing that come to fruition a little bit more in the last few games?
Building around youth is dangerous. And the fact that you saw Smith Rowe done okay last night, but he's having to play at a rate. Mm-hmm. He's not used to managing a game, if you understand what I mean, Sophie. He's not used to being economical in his play, where he could conserve energy, because you've got to go through season after season to actually understand how you could get away with your breather, where you could take it, how you could influence the game just by even just being in an area, etc. He's playing at full tilt all the time, and he's going to burn out. And as Mikel Arteta said after the game yesterday, you know, there's probably going to be 50 games this season. He's not going to burn these kids out, and he's right. And for a club like Arsenal to having the youngsters carrying the experience, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. In my opinion, that's wrong.
So let's go to Bernadette's comment. Looks like priority is the league. Squad not good enough to rotate the way we did at the weekend. And I think that comes back to what you're saying, Casey, a little bit like there's a lot of comments in here and I'll put some of them up as you're chatting. That it's really risky to just rely on the youth, which is why maybe we've brought in, I'm just going to call him Martin, at the number 11 position to maybe either alleviate ESR or play with ESR and give him some more options?
That's a good question by Bernadette. And you're right, Sophie, because look, at any top club in the Premier League even, you do not see a young player or a couple of young players carrying the first team. It's only at Arsenal. Only. So that just goes to show that something isn't right. We know that we've got good players. We know that we've got some talent there. But the actual team has been carried by Emil Smith Rowe and the jewel in the crown, which is Bukayo Saka, who came up trumps for us yesterday. Okay? Saka seems to have ice in his veins because he knows exactly what to do on a football pitch. He can play multiple positions and he's effective at what he does. But when you're talking about Martinelli, Smith Rowe, and Saka together, to carry Arsenal for a season, it's just not going to happen. Sorry, it is not. So what we need to do is we need to have a squad where we can mix and match. Who's to say Saka, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe couldn't play 1 week, and then Martinelli, Odegaard, and Smith Rowe plays the next week, and then in the midweek game, Saka plays with Odegaard, you understand, and Martinelli. So you've got to be able to change them around, and every time you change them, we're still effective. That's what you see with the top teams. If they change a player around, they're still effective. We're not. We lose Saka and Smith Rowe against Newcastle in the FA Cup, and we're all over the place. We have to bring them on to get to make it happen in extra time. So, you know, it's still a bit of work to be done.
Okay. And our good friend Mike from the Gooners podcast here is being a little sarcastic, which is true Mike fashion. But in a sense, it's like, okay, we're saying you can't build a team around youth. And someone just said you sound like Alan Hansen saying you can't win anything with kids. So the balance is bringing in a 22-year-old who has a knee injury and hasn't really played much since maybe before Project Restart and lockdown. What are your thoughts on that?
No, it's what you got to look at is what does he bring to the table, Sophie? It's not about, you know, he's a 22-year-old and he's got a knee injury. No. What does he bring to the table? He brings something to the table that we have lacked for ages, and that is a midfielder who can unlock a defense, whether it's at the top end of the pitch or deep. He sees the pass early and he can deliver. Now, whether this actually works or not, I've seen him do it week in and week out. And the likes of Aubameyang, we've seen he gets one ball from Partey and he goes and he scores that goal. Okay? Fantastic, brilliant. But I've been at Brighton where he's making run after run after run and nobody gives him the ball. So I'm sure Mikel Arteta has looked at that and said, do you know what? We need we need some creative players, more creation.
Right.
Who can pick a pass? Because you know what? It will make Pepe a better player. This is why I was going crazy about Xhaka playing forward last night, because I've seen Pepe make run and not get the ball. But yesterday he made the run and the ball came and he scored. Now, if every time you make a run, most likely you got the ball, I tell you what, as a striker, you will make runs all day long.
And you were amazed how Xhaka's passing has changed since having Thomas Partey in midfield with him, passing it forward. Your mind was blown yesterday, literally. And it's not an exaggeration if you didn't listen to our post-game show. Kevin,
I tell you.
Kevin was talking about how you're amazed. A comment from Andrew here, which I think encapsulates a couple of. We'll park the Ozil bit till the end, you guys. So save your comments on Ozil until the end, because it's something we haven't addressed, and Casey wanted to really ask you guys the question. But Andrew says this isn't just about Arteta, but the partnership of Arteta and Edu. I'm not sure of the hierarchy, but of the two. But Edu obviously doing a lot in the background. Ultimately, Edu's the boss. He's the decision maker, but they make decisions together, Casey.
He's not the decision maker. No way on earth.
He decided to buy Partey over Usam Aouar. The rumor is Arteta wanted Usam Aouar, but Edu was adamant on Partey.
You can't follow the route. Let me tell you something. If you're the manager of the team, Sophie, over your dead body, do you bring someone else in who you don't want? Because
so you saying Arteta's the ultimate decision maker?
Yeah, I am. Because remember, he went from coach to manager. And the fact that he's manager, of course they have to work in tandem, Sophie. I'm not saying that they don't agree. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it is Mikel Arteta who is building this thing with Edu. And yes, Edu has a say. Of course he does. But I think they came to an agreement that they needed the defensive midfielder more than they needed Usam Aouar. And that's why they pulled the trigger on Thomas Partey. And I'm so pleased they did, Sophie, because the guy's a Rolls Royce.
Yeah, he certainly is. And he's not even fully fit yet. Mike wanted to comment, follow up on his comment just to make sure that it was clear. He said he was talking more about looking at a 22-year-old as an older player to counterbalance our youth. It made him smile. You know, it's kind of true. But when you look at teams, look at Chelsea. I mean, Lampard really gave younger players a chance, didn't he? You know, you look at some of the teams around the league. KC, I think when you were playing, a player reached his peak at maybe 29. That was the age. That was the average age of a player really hitting.
28 to 32. 28 to 32 is your peak years, yeah.
And now we're talking about like 22 to 25-year-olds being leaders and captains of teams. You know, we're seeing that across the board, not only in the Premier League, but also in Europe as well. So I get what Mike's saying in that you've got 19, 20, 21-year-olds, but in comes a 22-year-old. But I think it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Kevin, do you agree? If you're good enough.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how old you are. But again, Sophie, just like anything, you need experienced players around young players. You do. But you need the experience to be able to raise the game of the youngsters. And this is very difficult for me to take, seeing the youngsters carrying Arsenal Football Club. It's madness. So that's why I think Arteta knows he had to get the wrong uns out.
Yeah.
And then he has to work on, obviously, the development of the players, the young players, with the experience, and he's got to raise the level of the experience. But he needs the Partays to be playing for that to happen.
Right. And you're talking about kind of securing youth, and it's important that ESR stays at the Gunners. He's definitely a play for the future. We don't want to make him feel like we're signing a player that's going to take his place. So Karthik brings up a really good question here, Casey, based on what you're saying, is can they play together? Can these 2 play together? Tell us
100%.
why.
100% they could play together because both are good players. Odegaard can play in the center of the pitch. He can play in the number 10, and he can play in any of the wide positions. So getting him in the team as a quality addition is not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Smith Rowe, we've seen, can play number 10. He can also play wide as well. So I just believe, if you've got enough good players on that pitch, you're going to hurt teams. You are going to hurt teams, and they're young and they're energetic. But the great thing about other guys, he's got experience. He has. Mm-hmm. He's been at Real Madrid, but he's had enough long spells now where he knows what to do. He was sensational, I'll tell you, at Real Sociedad for a season.
So we don't want to go too much into Odegaard because we're doing tomorrow night. We have our player profile on him, and Casey's watched him play a lot in Spain and has his intel on this signing. So tomorrow night, be sure to tune in, and we're going to be doing a special just focusing purely on him, his game, his characteristics, his attributes. So it'd be really, really interesting. I want to take this one from Mark Sweet. Didn't and still don't want Arteta. Everyone makes mistakes, but his, and there have been lots already, Kevin, are so basic that they've highlighted just how atrocious his man management skills are. So you ask about the transition from losing the FA Cup game to going to the Premier League game, and Mark here still is not buying in.
Listen, not everybody's going to buy in. And listen, it's not my job to convince you, Mark, to like Arteta. But I'm sure when Arsenal won the FA Cup, you celebrated. I'm sure you did. And he done it with the same sick culture that he inherited. But if we're going to build something, a foundation to challenge in the league, we need to give the man time. You might not want him. Do you know what? The question I'd like to ask Mark: who would he have as manager if he got rid of Arteta? Because that's going to raise even more problems. Because I guarantee you he's going to go for experienced manager, and we won't get the experienced manager, Sophie, because the experienced manager want money to spend, and we don't have it.
Yeah.
So let's see what Mark.
And that's
Mark,
partly why they brought him in.
Yes,
that's partly why they brought him in, right? I mean, to be able to manage through the world's changed, you guys. We never had money really before because we put ourselves in a pickle with some of the signings and the wages that we were giving players. And now in a pandemic and in a fiscally challenged universe that we live in, it's still not easy either. So there's a lot that they have to tackle with. And, they went for a manager that maybe could just toe the line a little bit too, Casey, to be honest with you.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Let's see what Zod has to say here. Good evening, Zod Sinclair. In February, we play Man United, Wolves, Villa, Leeds, City, Leicester. Wait, you trying to upset us here? Hold on a second. No. We lost convincingly to 4 of these 5 teams. Drew against Leicester. Can't have 4 teams doing the double over us in February. Back Arteta.
Whoa. We never lost against 4 of those 5.
We beat Man United.
We drew at Leeds.
We drew at Leeds.
Yeah, and we lost against Wolves.
We lost against Wolves, Villa and Leicester.
Hold on, he's got City in there.
We lost to City.
So it's 4 or 6. So it's not even answering the same right questions here, Zod. Get it right, will ya?
I love it. But he's saying, even though.
But we were going through a tough time then. Let's see how we do now. We've got them coming. Let's see how we do.
Let's see. Let's go to Duncan here, a really good friend of the show. We love Duncan. Good evening, Duncan. Welcome. The finances we need are raised through the league. We need to finish as high up as we can. Arteta did the right thing and sends that message to the fans and players. So in answer to your question, Duncan says, yes, Casey, he made the right decision.
Yeah, listen, I think he made the right decision anyway. And like we discussed on Saturday, we don't know whether there's players with injuries. We find that out after yesterday's game. Kieran Tierney, everyone was saying, why didn't Tierney play? Why didn't this one? Because they're injured. Kieran Tierney never even played yesterday. So, we're trying to keep him that he gets to play against Manchester United at the weekend. I think it's a very difficult juggling act, Sophie, because, as you rightly say, we go from game to game. And you kind of balance and you look at the team and you think this one should be playing or that one should be playing. But you don't know what's going on behind. You don't know who's got injured because the club are not going to come out and say who's injured to who's not injured because it gives the opposition. Because it gives the opposition an advantage. So fortunately, the fan base react to that, but they don't really know.
Right. Let's go to Osterman here, 74. Thanks for joining. Going to the second question that you asked about youth, the only way we'll keep hold of Saka, ESR and Gabby is by starting to compete and win the big trophies. Otherwise, they're bound to move on. I think Arsenal fans have every right to be dubious about this one, Kevin, because when you look at the players we've lost in the past, the fact that we didn't maybe build on certain times, eras, chapters, from when we got to the Emirates, we could have been competitive. You mentioned the Leicester year a lot in terms of whether or not we'd have had that really super world-class CB and a Thomas Partey in midfield. Would have we been able to bring the Premier League home that year? What do you say to Osterman here in terms of what he's saying? Because I think there's a lot of value to this. We can't let them down.
Well, for me, I think usually you ask me to summarize at the end.
Okay,
but
you want to do?
But what I will say about the question is the key to all this is that the young players get enough game time and they see the club developing. Because remember, they've probably come into the squad, Sophie, this season at one of the worst it's been in years. We were awful. Weren't we? We were awful earlier on in the season. So what I think as a young player, what you need to see the ambition of the club. You need to see the ambition of the manager. You need to see the culture. You need to see a winning mentality in the football club. And then once that happens and you're playing and you're starting to win games, all you can do is compete for trophies to start with, Sophie. Nobody's got a divine right, because when you look at what's been spent elsewhere, they've signed world-class players at all these other clubs. But we need to compete. We've got to be able to compete. So however we do it, we're going to have to be able to compete to really keep these guys in place. Right.
And there's a good one here from good old Johnny Boy. Good evening, Johnny Boy. We hope you're doing really well. Odegaard loan deal. Do you have an issue with these loan deals that don't have an option to buy at the end, Kevin? What? Let's say he's a superstar, he comes out and rocks it and gets us into top four, and then Bayern Munich sweep in and buy him because they have more money than us. Do you have an issue with that, or is that the risk we have to take at this point?
It's a risk we have to take for that type of player. It's a risk we have to take. Listen, he's a Real Madrid player, he's not our player, and Real Madrid do not have bad players. Let me tell you. And this kid has gone out on loan a couple of times, year after year, and he's proven himself. He is someone that we haven't got in the squad. He could pick a pass. He works hard. He's a good loan signing. Real Madrid said, no, there is no opportunity to buy at the end. So what do? Do we say, no, we don't want it? No, we'll take a top player. And that might then make the Arsenal fans see we need a player like this. So, to get quality in at that level, you're not going to get it a lot of places. It's either it's injured or is the player's not been playing at his football club.
Let's go to Yoel Marawa. Fantastic name. Even Wenger, with all his experience, Kevin, made a lot of mistakes. There's nothing wrong with making mistakes, but the key is to learn from them and don't repeat them. And now I feel the reason why I'm feeling somewhat a little bit more comfortable with Mikel is because maybe he's learned from playing some of those Wengerite enabled players, and he's sticking with. It would have been really different if he was dropping ESR or Saka or some of these other players, right? We've seen him drop Willian because he's been underperforming. We've seen him drop Pepe, but then put Pepe back in, and maybe he's been training and talking to him in training and having those words. And we saw a solid performance from him yesterday. What are your thoughts on what you're saying?
Yours makes a really good point. Look, at the end of the day, the manager has to assess his team, and he has to assess the talent that he's got. I mean, I thought it was a good opportunity for Pepe yesterday to not play on the right, but to play on the left. And if we look at it, Sophie, Saka's better on the right than Pepe is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he is. Maybe that him being on the left-hand side is probably a bit more natural for Pepe because he's a left footer. But if you're a forward, you need service. And I'm going to go back to it again. The fact that Partey passed it to Xhaka. Xhaka looked forward and played that ball into Pepe in the box so he can use his strength and put it in the corner. I was so delighted with that play, with that pass, and with that finish. I think now the problem for Pepe is, can he do it again on Saturday? And then can he do it again on Tuesday? This is the issue that we have with Pepe, because sometimes he blows hot and then he blows cold, and then he blows cold and colder, and then he might blow a little bit lukewarm. This is the issue.
Right. Let's go to Harryland. It's okay to be Arteta out as long as it's constructive. The same applies to Xhaka recent games. Don't discredit him because of what he did in the past. Reset, rejoice, and enjoy the good times. I said this on the show the other night, Kevin, and you and I are definitely on the same page in terms of, if a player plays well, let's give him a round of applause for that. If he plays badly, so go on, Kevin, because Xhaka's a really good example of someone who's excelled this season, especially with some changes in the team.
Yeah, look, if a player, for me, I've said it before. When he done what he done with the shirt and everything, I said Xhaka shouldn't play for the football club. He should have been out. The fact of the matter is, when he plays well, I'll tell you he plays well. I'm not one who's going to say, oh, he didn't have a good game, he's this, he's that. When he plays bad, earlier on in the season, Xhaka was playing poor.
Mm-hmm.
But since the Chelsea game, he's picked up. He has picked it up. And maybe it's a little bit of, remember, he got sent off and stuff like that at home.
Well, we had those 3 sending offs, didn't we?
Yeah,
there was Pepe, Xhaka, and we went through a bad patch then, didn't we?
And Gabriel, it was like, what are you doing? But from that, he's come back, he's got back in the team, and he's performing, and he seems to have performed better with Thomas Partey, which is good. I still think we need more, because I still think there is opportunity for us to really dominate teams in the midfield. But Xhaka's done better. I've got to admit that he has done better, especially with that forward pass yesterday. He did. He surprised me yesterday with that pass, and I was pleasantly surprised.
So someone did ask, I'm trying to find it, Casey, because I thought it was a really good question, and I'm not sure who it came from. Maybe you guys can let me know, and I'll credit you here. But they were saying, if we can keep the youth, what are the missing pieces to the jigsaw puzzle, Kevin? Yeah,
the missing pieces. Obviously, you look at the back and you look, and okay, we need natural cover at left back. We know Cedric can play left back because he had a blinder yesterday. But I think against some of the big teams, we want him at right back, because I think I think he's better than Bellerin. He's a better defender than Bellerin. I honestly do. So at least that's Bellerin and Cedric fighting for right back right now. We need Kieran Tierney to have competition there. And we know Kieran Tierney's the number one, yes. But just like anything, players pick up little niggles throughout the season. It's a demanding league, etc. So we've got to be able to change and dovetail, and we've got to be able to, Sophie, get that rose-tinted glasses off. And if it's a Ryan Bertrand, we get a Ryan Bertrand. He's Premier League proven. He knows how to play left back.
Exactly.
He's a decent player, and he's a lefty. You know, let's stop being snobbish.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
And centre midfielder, what my Basuma?
How's he do? Is he playing tonight?
Yeah, they drew, I think, 0-0 with Fulham.
That finished already. Okay, so are Man United still losing? Is that happening? We'll see.
Everton are still 1-up. I'll tell you now. Manchester United are 1-0 down. 61 minutes.
So one of the other questions that's coming from a few people, Kevin, on the chat when you're talking about keeping the younger players is, do we have the ownership that shows ambition to sign the kind of players we need to dovetail what you're saying in terms of you can't, Alan Hansen said years ago, and he had egg on his face, you can't win a Premier League with kids. But you rightly countered that by saying, well, they had Eric Cantona and they had...
They had Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Peter Schmeichel. Do you know what I mean? They had the experience.
Was Kanchelskis there at that time? Maybe he came later, Kanchelskis. But regardless, Steve Bruce, Gary Pallister, Eric Cantona, Peter Schmeichel, Dennis Irwin.
Mark Hughes was there. So there was some experience, and you look at that experience and you think, okay, these boys can come in and do a job, can't they? Do you know what I mean? Roy Keane, you had proper players, proper leadership. Brian Robson was still the captain of the football club when they came through. So you've got real leadership. Do we have that at the moment? No, we don't. But we need to build that into what we're doing, because who's to say that the Azizis of this world and all these guys who are coming up can't make it in? But you need that foundation to be able to, when you blood them, the team's playing well. We've got the experience. We've got the younger players who are older than them, who are at a level that when they come in, they could just work seamless.
Right. You're listening to the Highbury Squad. It's the Lockdown Series, Volume 2, Episode 15, guys. It's Kevin Says. He's asked you 3 questions. In about 2 minutes, we're going to get on to the last one, which is about Ozil. So get ready to let us know what you feel in chat. Hold off for 2 more minutes because I've got a couple more questions here for KC, and one from Mars Gunner, because one of the things I think that's hampered Maitland-Niles, Kevin, is that he's kind of become the jack of all trades and master of none now at Arsenal under Mikel. We saw him have a huge run in Project Restart. We got to the new season. Something's maybe happened. Not sure what it is. He's not getting picked. He's not getting selected. We see him kind of have that lazy. Every time he gets up to take a penalty, Arsenal fans just want to hold their heads and cover their eyes because he's got that lazy kind of Ozil type of approach, very laid back. And maybe that's a little bit what he has in training. So when we talk about players who've played in multiple positions, Mark Gunner brings up a good one here, because we've seen Saka play in so many positions. In order for us to move ahead and succeed, and in order for us to make sure that we hold on to that youth, like you're saying, where does Saka have to play now versus where he plays once we get all of the jigsaw puzzle pieces in place?
Well, I think Saka plays any of the wide positions. I think he could be really effective on the right-hand side, because he's got that one where he can come inside, but he can also beat you on the outside. And look, that ball by Cedric was beautiful yesterday. And he used his right foot to just guide Saka, just guided it into the path of Lacazette for the 3rd goal, which was a beautiful goal. So I think Saka can actually be more effective on the right-hand side. So because I think Martinelli could play on the left, you got Aubameyang who could play there, you got Odegaard who could play there, you probably got Smith Rowe who could play there to cut inside. So maybe, we'd be that type of team who the wide players come in to make it narrow, and then the fullbacks go on the outside. That's what I see.
Okay, cool. All right, last one before we go to the Ozil question. You're listening to the Highbury Squad, as we said, and we'll be back tomorrow night. And Odegaard will be our player profile. Every time I pronounce his name incorrectly, everyone will chat will let me know. So this is going to be a long arse enter the season, Kevin.
So keep saying it wrong, Soph.
I'm going to keep saying it wrong just to keep everyone on their toes. A good one from the real captain. If we were to sign someone like Ryan Bertrand, knowing the mistakes we've made in the past with contracts, Kevin, how would you handle a signing like this if it were to happen before the end of the window? That's the samurai sword. It just fell. I've been using it too much lately.
He wants to get busy, the samurai sword. Look, I would, again, for me, I'd give him 2 years, because what's the point in giving him a year? You couldn't even give him a year. It's either 6 months or you give him 18 months. So you probably give him 18 months, which is probably, this season and next season. Because if you only give him 6 months, you're going to have to replace him anyway, Sophie. So what's the point? You might as well, if you haven't got your eye on a left back, then you bring him in for 18 months to 2 years or whatever. If you have got your eye on a left back, but you can get him in for 6 months, then fair enough, you do that. But that will tell you the length of deal, if you signed Ryan Bertrand, will tell you whether they've got their eye on anyone else or not.
So Darren asked an interesting question on Twitter, and good evening, Darren. We hope you're doing well, and we always wish you well. Your question we're going to answer on Friday in our fan forum, because it's a really interesting one. He's asking us if we could mold the team any which way we wanted, Kevin. Who would we bring in? I think that's a really good one for the Friday show.
Do you know what? Again, I'm going to say this, Darren. It's unrealistic, because we could,
but within a realistic budget, within a realistic universe.
So what is a realistic budget, Soph?
Well, I think we've got to look at loan deals. I think we've got to look at finding like Martinelli's. I think we've got to sell.
So what is a realistic budget?
The realistic budget is whatever Kroenke wants to spend at this point, because I don't know. None of us know.
Mr. Byright, love.
Mr. Byright. We're like shopping at Marshall's when we should be at Neiman Marcus. I mean, this is crazy.
You know that? Oh God!
I know, it's very difficult.
We could deal with that question, Darren, on Friday, because PG probably will be here, so she could get involved in that.
And we love that you love it too, Darren. Thanks for joining us again. And you're welcome, Real Captain. This is why we're here. Okay, so here's the last question, so we can get KC out on this one. Thank you, SDQ. We appreciate that, and we appreciate that you guys dig it. Right. So we've answered the question about how do we keep the youth, and Casey's going to summarize it for all of us at the end. But now it's your turn. The question Casey asked is, following on from our legends versus icons question, is Ozil's legacy. Now, I think there's never been a more divisive player in Arsenal history than Ozil. It's incredible. I don't think there has. Do you? Do you, Kevin? I don't think there's been a more divisive player.
I think it's because he's got such power. He's got such power in his fan base, etc. His quality that he obviously played at Real Madrid, brilliant player, etc. But me personally, I don't think he's an Arsenal great. I think he's a quality player, incredible talent, and at times, you know what, Sophie, I've said it before, I think he was let down. Because
I agree.
Without that centre half and centre midfielder who could have covered for him, he could have then just concentrated on what was going on at the other end and not had this chat about him getting back. But Arsene Wenger never brought those players in.
Yeah.
So I think it maybe hurt his legacy.
Well, when you think about why he's excelled in his career, he's been super talented. You don't get to the top the way he did without having talent. And we've seen his God-given talent. I mean, he won the World Cup with Germany. But the difference is at Germany, he was surrounded by world-class players in every single position. At Real Madrid, he truly was surrounded by world-class players in every single position. He comes to Arsenal.
Who sat in that midfield.
I mean,
Makaleli sat in that
one
midfield.
of the best ever. I mean, look what he did. Another player that got away for us, right, Kevin? Oh, Makaleli. What a player.
But again, Sophie, this is actually hurting me when you mentioned this, because there's Makaleli, there's Kante. We could have had them in our midfield. So why didn't we sign? Why didn't we sign them?
Mm-hmm.
Arsene Wenger is a great manager, but he made some mistakes too.
Yep, he really did. And I agree with Moss, a Germany legend, but is he now after the last World Cup debacle? Because I think that's where his problems really started. And, you know, we're asking this question because it's Casey's show tonight, and he wanted to ask you guys so we can put this to bed, from following up from our Arsenal Legends versus Icon show, because this is the one that we wanted to ask him, and he didn't really get to ask it of you. And I'm going to read some of these out for you, Kevin. From Moss, I agree, Casey, on Ozil, not an Arsenal legend. The real captain, Ozil's not a legend, but we let him down by not buying better players in his position. Yeah. Look, when you think about how we had Santi and Alexis and Ozil, and we didn't build on any of that, it's really sad in a lot of ways. Ozil, talented player, but sometimes a luxury player. Wenger didn't trust him in big away games. Don't even get me started on his social media antics. I think Wenger trusted him a bit too much at times, to be honest with you, Bernadette, in my opinion. Johnny Boy says the way the Ozil debacle saga arose and was handled, where should we put the blame? I think it's 6 1, half a dozen of the other, isn't it? I think the club are to blame, and I think he's to blame as well.
6 1 and 2 3s at times. Yeah, you're right. You know, look, he probably feels wronged against because what was sold to him when he came never materialized as well, Sophie. And sometimes as a player, that can rankle inside you. You know, when you look back over the years and you think, you know what? I should have won a title with this club.
Yeah.
I should have won a title. And we had the team in place. All we needed was a centre-off and centre midfielder, and we never got them. Never. And it's only been addressed this season. It's madness.
It is madness. So here's why Casey asked this question too, you guys, because we're in a very similar situation right now, okay? So understand how we're arcing the narrative tonight, in the sense that he's asking about the youth and how we secure them and how we keep them. And a lot of you have smartly said in chat, we got to build on them. We got to support them. We got to put quality players around them. And the reason why Kevin brings up the question about Ozil is he probably could have been a legend had we won that Premier League that year. Leicester did. Maybe a lot of these players would be looked at differently. And who knows what that legacy would look like. And, you know, I like to play the what if game, but sometimes the what if game is also a complete waste of time. But the point is that we have to learn from our mistakes, and that's what we hadn't done with some of these players. So just reading some more of these out to you here, Casey. Here we go. Let's see. We got Anthony. I don't know why they're not. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? I can hear you, yeah. I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So for some reason, I have a bit of a glitch, but Moss says Arsenal let them down and he kind of let the club down. Anthony, Kevin, what about Benfica? We're going to talk about that in another day or so.
I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Okay, I got cut off, so I'm on my phone now. Here I am. I'm back.
No problem, darling. We handle all the glitches, darling.
I love it. Sophie's gone. I'm back though. So basically, Newman says Ozil's a failure. Great players elevate an average team. Look at Dennis Bergkamp. Ozil dragged us down. Good riddance. I mean, do you agree, Kev, that in a sense sometimes look how Grealish is kind of putting Villa on his back, but he needed the help to not be relegated from last season. They were 1 point from relegation last season, and this season he's excelling because he's actually got better players around him. So I'm not sure in the modern game, you know, Maradona carrying Napoli, I think those days are gone, aren't they?
Yeah, but don't forget, you know, They had a young Ciro Ferrara and all these guys at the back. You know what I mean? You think to yourself, who played with him? Correca and all these guys. They had a damn good team. You know, they had a damn good team at Napoli, but the standout player was Maradona, who could make the difference. Our problem was we had good players individually, but there were certain key spots where we needed to fill the centre half and centre midfield. You know, we needed that dog in midfield and we needed that centre half, that dominant centre half, and we just never got them. And you know, I still say we would have won the title that year, and I know it's hypothetical, but I know Arsenal, after we beat Leicester at home, we would have been dominant. We would have won it. We would have gone on to win it for sure.
All right, cool. So I think the way I want to end the show, of course, is with you wrapping it up and answering the 3 questions yourself. That's how we end the show every single week. So let's start off with your
Arteta. Arteta. And the imbalance again. You know, it's for me. He done it the right way. He didn't risk players for risk's sake. And I know we want to win the FA Cup. I totally get that. I know the FA Cup is important to us. But what we must understand, what we really must understand.
Hold on, Casey. Let me get rid of this version.
All right.
Gosh darn it. Boom.
Oh, sorry. I thought I was in a nightclub there. Doom. So, but for Arteta to not risk any of the youngsters, not risk any of the players who are feeling anything, he had to make a decision, and he made the decision, and that's what the management do. Fair enough, Sophie, you didn't want Willian in, you didn't want this one in, you wanted certain different players, but he has to make a decision based on what he's got, and he's done that. We also said on Saturday, after we had a spontaneous show, that the key to it is winning on Tuesday. And even after going a goal down early, we were the better team on the day. We looked a lot more direct. We were playing forward. We were the better team, and we deserved to win. And we ran out 3-1 winners, and it could have been more. So he's got that right. The key is the balancing act for me, Sophie. It's very difficult to get a balancing act when you actually don't have the squad that's good enough. Because when you need to chop and change players, you're bringing in a player who's out of form, or you're bringing in a player who's needs game time and is not going to be up to speed. It's very difficult for him. So I think he got that bit right for this couple of games anyway, that's for sure. Obviously, Manchester United coming up at the weekend, and we'll cover that. So going on to the second part of securing these youngsters, I think the likes of bringing up Martin Odegaard in is important, because if I'm Martinelli and I'm watching him in training and I'm seeing this guy picks the pass so I can utilize my speed, Aubameyang's going to be licking his lips when he's back training, because this guy can pick a pass. Lacazette's going to love it. Saka's going to love it. Smith Rowe's going to love it. Someone who can actually pick the ball up and you make him move and the ball's already on its way. Not you make him move and then you've got to look back and then you've got to usher him, play the ball and the ball's on its way. No, this kid could do it. Surprised that Xhaka played that pass as well. I'll say it again, Sophie, 3 times today. Surprised that Xhaka done it. But to secure these youngsters, 2 things have to happen. We have to get better players in that team and squad in and around them so they can flourish. And 2, and the most important, Sophie, we've got to protect the football club, and we've got to get them signed up long term. Because you know what? I know Saka's just signed a contract not too long ago, but he's already outplaying his contract, Sophie. He's already outplaying. He's already got Arsenal on his back, and he's the jewel in the crown already. So what do? You get to the end of the season.
Just give him what he wants.
And you give him a new one. You say, hey, listen, you've done fantastic, Bakayo. Here's a new contract, son. No problem. You don't even have to get your agent to ask. We're going to offer it. Because, do you know what? That's how you win favor with these youngsters. Not, you haven't played a game and then you're asking 400 grand a week. It doesn't work that way.
Right. And I think you've already given your thoughts on Ozil.
Mesut Ozil, he's a great player. He was a great player at Real Madrid, great player for Germany. But I just don't think he goes into the category of an Arsenal great. I think he was a quality player, top player with amazing talent. But like I say, I think maybe he got dealt a bad deal at a certain stage with Wenger, because Wenger never addressed the problems that needed to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely agree with you. Brilliant. Absolutely great. Okay, so you guys keep those comments coming in. And if you're listening on replay, make sure that you give us your answers to all of the 3 questions as well, because we'll read them out on our Friday show as well, or on our forthcoming show. At some point, we'll read them. We're also doing a show tomorrow, player profile on Odegaard. So get any questions into us. You can send them on the YouTube channel through this show, or just send them to the highburysquad@gmail.com. Kevin saw him play a lot in La Liga and has a good take on him. So we're going to be dissecting his game tomorrow, looking at his characteristics, the value that he can bring to the team, what positions he could potentially play in, and ultimately, can he help Arsenal climb the Premier League table? And will he also be of value when it comes to our challenge in the Europa League? Whether or not he's ready to play immediately, we'll leave that to the gaffer to decide. So that's coming up. And then on Friday, we have our fan show, which is driven by you. So it's literally exclusive to anyone in chat. So you drive the content and the questions. You're basically the boss on Friday. So you're going to tell me what to do.
And me.
And you're going to tell Kevin what to do. and maybe Amanda will be here. So you tell Amanda what to do, which we love doing anyway, So we always love telling Amanda what to do. No, jokes aside, the whole gang will be here on Friday, and that will be fun. And the show is all about you. So make sure, and you can ask anything, remember. No subjects are off limit. And let's see how we go. Tomorrow we'll also hopefully we'll be kicking off with our new sponsor, Football Prizes. You get the chance to go online. You can end up winning a Thierry Henry shirt if you bid at like £1 or £2 or something, and we should be able to give away something on our show as well as part of it. But we're really excited about partnering up with them and what they're trying to do to help fans build their memorabilia collection at such a great price and cost as well. What they're doing is really quite amazing, and they're partnering up with other podcasts as well. Now, let's see.
Still 2-1, 83rd minute.
Everyone is winning it. Now, last time I put up a score in chat, Tottenham ended up surviving, and Newman's determined to win prizes. Let's see. Great podcast again. Thank you so much. Good evening, Mexico. Come on, you Gunners. Avani TV. Thank you for joining us as well. We really love that. God, I love a vacation in Mexico. What a great place.
Beautiful.
Oh, such a beautiful place. All right, Kevin. So it's been great. It's been great. Everyone in chat's done brilliantly. Casey, what have you done to Sophie? Oh, I disappeared for a while. Apologies to you guys if there was a bit of sounded like we were at a rave back in the 90s, with the smiley face stuff. Unfortunately, I got kicked off for a little bit, but luckily I was able to come back. Kevin, brilliant segment again. Well done. Love your questions, and we'll be back tomorrow. And until then, let everyone know.
Listen, everyone, there's only one team and one team we love. Come on, you Gunners, always.